Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Beyonding podcast. I'm Kylie Carr. I am thrilled to be here today with my co-host, Myra Capri, as always. And we have a special guest today. My sister, my soror, my friend, a force. A force who uses her voice for the greatest good. Luvvie Ajayi Jones, welcome.
Thank y'all for having me. It's so good to be
Mm,
here.
thank you for being
Welcome.
here. Yes, I know that our audience knows you, so we don't need an introduction, but just for those folks who may be coming across this, who maybe they've been under a rock,
Mm,
I don't know. Maybe they've heard the name and they're curious. Let me just give a small, short overview of Luvvie Ajayi Jones. She is a 4-time New York Times bestselling author, a speaker, a book coach. She thrives at the intersection of culture, business, and leadership. Her 5 critically acclaimed books are game changers. Game changers. She has established herself as a literary force with a powerful pen and I would say also a powerful voice. Her expertise as a marketer and a successful published author drove her to create the Book Academy, which I am a proud alum.
Same.
Yes, both of us, right?
Wow.
A masterclass and coaching platform for aspiring and established authors. We knew that we had to invite Luvvie on, and she's no stranger to other conversations that we've had in the Beyonding community on the Beyond the Business Suit podcast, and excited to welcome her here in this space, especially at this moment. Luvvie recently announced that she was making a big move, a move that many of us in the entrepreneur space were like, what? You can do that? You can do that?
Yes,
Like,
ma'am.
opened up possibilities. And the way she moves is a way that we all need to listen to. So I'm going to stop talking for a moment. I got some questions. We got some questions. But Luvvie, I'm just so glad to see you again. And oh, by the way, y'all, we are recording this. We are all in Atlanta in different places right now. I wish it would have worked out for us to be in studio, but this will do. This will do.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah. So let's start with you sharing, Luvvie, about this big move that you made, this big announcement
Yes.
that you
Oh my
made.
gosh. Oh my
What
gosh.
was the move, the announcement?
So I announced that I hired a CEO for my company, and I am now founder and chief visionary officer. And it is the first time that I have not been the person managing operations for my company. It's the first time that I have somebody who is in the place of leadership in that way. So it is such a big deal for me, and something that is just still blowing my mind because I'm like, I didn't even think it was going to be possible.
Is this something that has been on your mind for a while? Was it something like, oh, okay, one day, or that you had been planning on,
Yeah.
or how did walk us through that journey?
So it's been on my one day I want to have a CEO run this company because I don't enjoy. Let's keep it a buck. Entrepreneurship got hands and it can be trash. Okay. Because here you go wanting to do purpose work and assignment work, which you're called to do. But then you recognize once you are running the company that you end up being stuck in managing P&Ls and hiring and firing and taxes, which drains the life force out of me.
Mm,
Right. So people think about entrepreneurship and they think about like, yeah, I want to do purpose work. I want to, start this company. But and I want to do something that's really creative. But entrepreneurship is not about creativity. It's not about creativity. It is not about just the purpose that you want or you have. It's also about the super pragmatic and logistical stuff. And what's interesting is the purpose work and the pragmatic stuff being ran by the same person is actually it's really draining. And I don't think we recognize how draining it is. We just know that we have to push through because a lot of times we don't have any other option, right? So even how the human brain operates, switching of executive functions throughout the day actually exhausts all of us. All of us. Like, Kylie, you might have a coaching call at 9 o'clock, and then at 10 o'clock, you got to talk to your CFO about whether y'all have paid the quarterly taxes. And then at 12 o'clock, you got to do a group call and start with deep breaths. And then at 1 o'clock, you're calling somebody about a project that you're thinking about. Over the days, you're not really sitting in the purpose work for most of it, right? You're
So
doing
you all up in my calendar? Like you all up in my calendar.
Yeah.
Listen, I know the struggle. The struggle is so real. And frankly, when we talk, I've been in burnout mode, I think, for the last 3 years, to be quite honest. I've been recovering from it for the last year, actively recognizing how my ability to make decisions is being affected day by day because of the fact that I've been running this company kind of out of my own zones of genius for a while. And so I've been said, I want to have a CEO one day because, I don't want to run the company. Like, I want to do the work that only I can do. I don't want to be the one on the calls with the vendors or worrying about onboarding or hiring, because that is sucking the life out of me. So, I just didn't know I was going to be able to do it this quick or this soon. And that's the surprise. And I think it's interesting that you said I'm showing us that it's possible. I didn't think about it like that, because all of us are running businesses that are so close to our hearts. They feel like extensions of us. It's basically like handing your baby over for the summer and being like, you don't live here anymore. Like, but if y'all need me, I'm at home. You can come home anytime you want. But for the summer, you're somebody else's responsibility. And that's scary. But I feel like I had to do it.
How did you know? So it's first of all admirable, because I was literally just talking to someone today about how I don't want to do the admin. Let's just call it the admin of the work. I don't want to do that. But is it even possible, like you saying you didn't know it could happen when it happened?
Yeah.
How did you know the timing was right? Was there something very clear to you in that moment that was like, this is the time, this is the person? I heard you talk about in your finale in the Professional Troublemaker podcast that the person showed up. Let my helpers find me was the prayer, right?
That's right.
How did you know Susie was it and the time was right? Like, tell us about that.
Yes. So 2 years ago, this time 2 years ago, my company was on the verge of bankruptcy. I had fired every single person on my team minus one. I'd even let go of I even moved book agents. Like, I basically shifted internally and externally everybody that represented me in any particular way, minus like one person. And so I spent 2024 basically rebuilding this company, and the Book Academy was a big part of that. And why I didn't even think this was a possibility was because, again, if 2 years ago I was literally on the verge of the whole company crumbling, to now have a CEO and be able to step back is such a shock, because I'm like, whoa, look at the difference 2 years makes. Like, look at God move, right? How did I know that it was the right time and the right person? Honestly, all this timing has actually been very divine, because back in March, I end up at an event and I end up having dinner with one of my mentors. And she was like, I'm taking a sabbatical this summer, like for the first time ever. I'm going off grid in the summertime. I'm taking a sabbatical. And she was like, I feel like you need one too. And I was like, I've been thinking about a sabbatical. So we're at this dinner and she was like, pull up your calendar. So I pull up my calendar and she was like, can you do July and August off? And I was like, maybe I could. And she was like, let's do a sabbatical. Like, we can hold each other accountable. So the next week I went into work. So I hired Susie Barber as my chief strategy officer a year ago, and she's been really integral in the rebuilding of the company. And one of the things we don't talk enough about is the wounds of running a business after people have let you down over and over again, after you have bear the brunt and consequences of people's either lack of integrity, lack of hard work. Meanwhile, you're like, I'm not a Fortune 500. For me, it hurts different. You know what I'm saying? It hits different when somebody does something that is a mistake that costs you thousands of dollars or tens of thousands of dollars, which my team cost me hundreds of thousands of dollars. So I was carrying the wound of like rebuilding and trying to figure out what trust is anymore. You know, what is trust when the people you entrusted basically almost ruined what you built? So when Susie started with me, I was like, let's start small. And as she was earning my trust, I would add more responsibility. And it's one of those things of trust and verify. So for anybody listening, if you're like, how do I trust somebody? It's not a blind trust, it's a trust and verify, where you give the space for them to do the work. You keep your eyes on the ball, don't take your eyes off the ball, and then you see what they do. Are they going to drop this ball? Are they going to hold it? Are they going to hold it tight? Are they going to take the ball further than you might have thought they could, or whether you could? So you just have to build the data points and like look objectively. So in March, actually, Susie's the one who pitched me and was like, hey, I have a bold pitch. I think
Come on,
I can run
Susie,
this
with the
company.
bold pitch.
I said, you know what? If nothing else, boldness is a part of my company's core values, and that's part of my core values. So I'm like, be
Love
bold.
it.
I want everybody who works with me to be bold. So I said, you know what? Let's do it. It feels risky in a particular way because you never know if it's going to work. But I am willing to take the risk. I'm willing to take the big risk. It might work, it might not work. But now I know that I'm actually in the position to be able to take this step, no matter who's in the seat. You know what I mean? And giving ourselves the permission to be able to say, yeah, let me try. And I think I'm willing to make a mistake. You know what I'm saying? Like, we often think our decisions are like blood oaths. They're not. Be willing to make the mistake. From the mistake, if anything, you'll learn more and move forward. But it's a big risk for me because it's the first time I'm ever handing my company to somebody else. This company that I've run by myself for 2015. No, since 2015, so 10 years. No, actually, since 2010, 15 years. Okay. It's been 15 years. I started working for myself April 2010. So yeah, man, like the timing just seems to work now because I'm like, look, I'm taking the sabbatical whether or not. So then it was just all kind of like divine timing because then we made Susie CEO and I was like, bet I'm out for the summer. And this is the ultimate test, right? This also becomes the ultimate test of what happens when I am on sabbatical. It's like the perfect timing to show like I am no longer in this place of being anybody's crutch. Everybody sink or swim.
What do you hope and expect that this decision will open up for you? You mentioned not being in your zone of genius, right? It operating that role. So what will this allow you to lean into that maybe you didn't have the capacity to do before?
That's such a good question. And that's been really important in my consideration of even what my sabbatical needs to look like. I have built this company to this point, to this multi-million-dollar company, while still not even fully operating my zones of genius. Like, so when I'm able to embody the purpose work, the speaking, the visionarying, the ideas, the empowering, the innovation, the God's work and faithfulness, without having to worry about P&L, without having the checklist of are we in compliance, without being the one who's figuring out onboarding platforms, without having to make the decision of, who do we need to bring in for this project to actually be successful? I can't even imagine because I feel like I've been maybe operating at 20% of my genius.
Oh
What?
my. Oh my. Oh
I feel
my.
like I feel like I've only really tapped into like maybe 20 all this years. I'm like, who am I
Wow.
in my full body of genius? I'm excited to find out because that's about to be ridiculous.
Mm. Mm.
I'm being reminded. So to bring, yeah. So yesterday we had an epic lunch, almost dinner.
Yes.
And one of the things that we were talking about was this idea of when we are in our 40s, we are really coming into ourselves, right?
Yep. Yep.
And this idea of you recently, coming into this threshold of the 40s, welcome, as I'm
Yes.
almost on my way out. and and this idea of being unleashed,
Oh.
right? And being fully who you are. So the idea of like, even in that conversation, we haven't even seen Lovey completely unleashed. Like, she's just dipping her toe into the 40s. But what you're saying is it's not even only that, it's you haven't had the capacity to truly lean into all of your gifts and all of your
Yeah.
genius and even realize the visions that God has given you, where most people will look at what you've achieved and say, wow, like that is a lifetime of success.
Mhm.
So, whoo, I got goosebumps.
Listen, I know it. I know I've only been at 20% or even maybe like I'm like, oh, I know I haven't tapped into it. For real. Not in the way that's like, yeah, I I feel like with the space, I'll be the person writing books in 30 days. Like full books in 30 days. I fully believe it. Like people will be like, wait, you did what?
Mm.
It's like this. The Alchemist was written in 2 weeks. That's a person with space,
Wow.
Mm.
right? Like, so who am I? I've written the books I've written in 5 months. And I'm like, and that's while running full companies and running her up and down and doing all these things. So I can write a book in 30 days when I have the space and the opportunity to do it. I can come up with other things that can serve people in ways that they never recognized that they needed, but would be integral. So yeah, I really want to double down on the taking the space that I don't think I've ever had the privilege to have. So what I'm actually in is I want my business where I've kind of supported my life with my business. I want my business to support my life.
Mm.
And
Mhm.
that's what I'm switching into. It's like life first, and then the business is the one that's designed to help enable whatever I want to happen, as opposed to me being like, let me pour into the business to make things happen for me. It's the opposite.
When you talk about that, and Kylie, was such a great question because I'm over here like, what capacity am I operating at? Like, I really, really want to sit with that. Another thing you said, Lovey, was that your creativity is embedded in your joy.
Yes.
Your
Yeah.
creativity is embedded in your joy. And so when I think about capacity, I also think about this emotional capacity that would open up, that, when you have the time and the space. Sometimes being in the operations of a business has it's emotional tax on us, right? And
Yep.
so that joy that you are now able to tap into because you lifted the emotional tax and weight of the operations, and you can now expand into your joy and let that creativity open up, unleash even. Like, I think there's something there too in how we have the capacity to create more when we have the space to be in our joy. What does that
Absolutely.
what does that even mean? Like, when you said that, I was like, "Oh, that's good."
Man, think about the fact that like when you are in a rested, joyful place, things don't even work doesn't feel as hard, right?
Mm,
Like, but when you're not, everything feels like a push and pull.
Mm.
And so many of us are, because, I mean, Black women especially, we are so used to operating at such a high capacity. And that's the other point that I want everybody to recognize, that I finally had to recognize it this year, is how much of a unicorn that I am,
Mm.
how much of a unicorn so many of us are. In the capacity, like the way we operate, we take it for granted. Actually, how much energy we're expounding every single day, how we operate with such excellence, how we will, we'll learn finance while we are writing poetry because we've had to do that. To trust other people is harder. So we're like, I want to at least know what they're doing so I can watch my back in case it's not being done well.
Mm.
And then we end up becoming really good at that thing, even though we enjoy doing it. But we are unicorns in that we operate in excellence even without joy sometimes, even when we're exhausted sometimes. Like our 10% is somebody else's 90%. And in recognizing that, being like, and that's kind of why I'm like, I recognize that I've had a lot of success in my career. I've done more than some people have done in 3 lifetimes. Sometimes I look
Mhm.
back, I'm like, I've lived 3 lifetimes in this one. But I still recognize that I have not even tapped into the deep well of creativity because I've been embedded in the admin tasks of running a company and scaling and being a good leader. And I just really deeply believe that the more we're able to create in joy, the better we are all for it, the better the product is, the better the work feels, the better the team moves. So I'm over here like, what are the things that don't bring me joy about running a company? And I
Mm.
identified those things first. And I'm like, I must outsource those things first. Those things must go first off my
Wow.
plate. And with each thing that I hand over, it creates a little bit more space for joy. With each task that I'm like, that's not mine to worry about, it creates a little bit more space for me to be like, oh, I can figure out what my next thing will be or my next book that I want to write is. So just, it's creating space bit by bit.
Mm. And we also talked a little bit yesterday about play, right? And I feel like joy and play go hand in hand. Before we jumped on, you just talked about like how excited you are about the sabbatical that you're about to go on. And I know a part of your sabbatical, you gave us a little peek that there's going to be some play. Like you are going to spend some time reconnecting with like the childlike parts of you where you get to play and it doesn't have to have an agenda or an objective. Like you just going to have some fun. And I think
Yeah.
that too helps us tap into that creativity of what it's like to not have the barriers and expectations and just play. Like, I'm excited for you. Like, this play sounds like it's about to be
Yes.
epic. Tell us about, like, what are
Yes.
some of
Like,
the things that you're excited about for your sabbatical?
yes, the play part is really important. There's a book that you might have all read that I feel like I read a page of it and it literally crystallized my whole life for me. Is Dr. Anita Phillips' The Garden Within.
Mm. Mhm.
That
Yes.
book, but there is a page in it that talks about your pain makes sense,
Mm.
that talks about the parentified child who has always been the responsible one, who's always had to make sure everything was good, who was like, I don't want anybody else to worry about me. So they took on the role of this adult at a young age. I was that girl. So I recognize that I've never played for real. Like, play is something I have to now learn at 40. So this sabbatical, I'm like, I really want to dedicate it to play and wonder, to help little Luvvie go like, you don't have to be that serious all the time. Somebody else got it. You don't got to worry about it. Let's just have a good time. It's not about learning. It's not about productivity. It's not about you doing something that will lead to this thing. It is simply about, in that moment, presence joy. So that's literally what I am dedicating my sabbatical to: rest, presence, joy, and really kind of being able to move in stillness, which is very much an oxymoron, but move in stillness
Mhm.
so I can hear what God has for me and just basically get in the back of the car and have God drive it. You tell me what I got to do today. What should I be doing today? So yeah.
Passenger princess.
Getting my
Right.
passenger princess on. Yes.
Yes.
Mm.
And it's interesting that you say that, Luvvie, because as you were talking earlier about the capacity, right? And the operating at, 10 to 20% when, there's so much more that's available when you are able to offload the things that are not bringing you joy, offload the things that are not in your zone of genius. What I was hearing is that this is going to bring you closer to God's plan for you, right? Like when we decide to operate a business, a company that is something that God has placed in on our heart, which is different than I want to be an entrepreneur or I want to sell this product. It's no, this is a purpose-driven business, right? This is a call that you have. It is an agreement that you have with God about why you are here and how you are using your talents and your gifts and your voice. So you making these bold steps, one, they're not only for you because you share and all of us will benefit, but two, I am like buzzing over here because you at 100%, and it's not even only you at 100%, it's like you opening yourself up for God to come in. And what will happen when you open yourself to God coming in with that capacity? Like they ain't ready. This world ain't ready.
Y'all gonna be like, how Luvvie releasing 7 books in 2 weeks? Yeah.
For real.
Without burnout. Like when you talked about you were in 3 years of burnout, that burnout won't be the option.
Amen.
It's not your energy that you'll be operating off of.
Amen. That's facts. That's facts. And that's why we got to make joy a very much an important part of our work. And even as I think about who I'm partnering with, what I say yes to, whether it's a podcast, whether it's a conference, whether it's a partnership, I am now stopping to ask myself, will this be done in joy? If the answer is no, we probably shouldn't do it, no matter what the revenue is, no matter if it looks good on paper. If it won't be done in joy, I don't want to do it. That's it.
Period. So you have your sabbatical coming up in a few days. Amazing. And new CEO in place and all of that. This sabbatical is for a period of time. And you mentioned the burnout that you've been experiencing for the past 3 years. What do you expect to put in place moving forward beyond this sabbatical that will allow you to maintain some equilibrium and prevent the burnout from coming back?
I want to put in place like slower practices for my work weeks. There in the past there have been weeks where I might have 6, 7 meetings in the day. And by the end of the day, I'm like, I hate everybody and anything. Don't talk to me. Don't even look at me. I don't even want to talk. I just want to go face the wall. Don't look at me. Don't ask me no questions. You definitely can't ask me what I need to eat for dinner. I don't want to eat none of that. Somebody put something in front of my plate. I ain't got time. Right? Like, so one of the things I'm going to be putting in place is legit that whole filter of joy. My team is going to be told that. Like, don't even present it to me as an option for me to react to. Save me from the decisions, like the 100 micro decisions in one day. That's why we end up at the end of our day, we're exhausted, even though we've been sitting still all day.
Yes.
Right? You're like, I've been in my desk all day. Why am I feel like I ran a marathon? Because you ran a marathon in your head. You made 200 micro decisions that day. So then by 7 p.m., you're like, oh my gosh,
Mm.
I've hit a wall. Years. I think I've done that for years where every decision. So now I throw it back at my team. If they send me something, I'll go, can somebody else answer that? Like, do I got to be the one give you yes or no? Because if it ain't got to be me, then please don't ask me. Ask me only if I'm the only person who can answer it. So I'm also learning that I think one of the things I must continue is I will always outsource what I don't enjoy.
Goodness.
I'm going to keep that going for sure. Because again, everything that I do that I don't enjoy is taking away my energy more than it's adding to it. So by the end of the day, if you do 20 things you don't enjoy, your batteries going to be on E.
Mm-hmm.
And that affects anything else. How you going to be able to like feel good at the end of the day when you're just like, I don't want to do none of that. So even the stuff you would love to do starts looking dusty because you're like, I don't want to do anything.
Yes. I'm spent. I am spent.
Get somebody else to do it is what I be on. And my team knows when I get to that point because I will tell them and I'll be like, nope. Either y'all figure it out by yourselves or drop it because I ain't going to be of no help. It happened even last week. Yesterday, actually. It happened yesterday where there was a decision that we needed to make. And the team was like, we're waiting on you to make the decision. And we'll need this from you. And I said to them, you're not going to get that from me. So make that decision based on the fact that you're not getting that from me. And they were able to make a decision to say, you know what, let's just not do that thing. Perfect. Go for it. So many of us who run our own businesses and all that stuff need to start learning about relinquishing control in a real way. And that's one of the things that I'm taking beyond my sabbatical.
It feels, all of that is just so good. It feels like almost like a shift though in like culture and conditioning that I feel a lot of us are used to, right? Like, first of all, being able to make the decision that I'm only going to do things that bring me joy. Game changer. Game changer. Sign me up, right?
Okay.
But then thinking about it as you even said, like, it doesn't always have to be the grind. Like, some things can come with ease. Everything doesn't have to be the struggle, the grind, I'm overworking, it's making me feel productive. Like, there is this conditioning and culture that I hear you speaking almost counter toward, that is, ease can be a part of what I do and still be productive. Like, it can be joyful, it can be easeful, it can be fun, and I still am accomplishing things. I am still in alignment with my purpose.
Yeah.
Probably even more so if it's easeful.
Yes.
How do we shift our mindset there? Because I don't feel like that's the culture right now.
It's not the culture. And honestly, like, all I've known has been the grind. All I've known has been the grind. And I think this season of my life, this last 2 years of my business almost tanking, actually taught me more than anything that there are times when your own efforts are not enough. It don't matter what you do. It don't matter how hard you're working. It doesn't matter how many other people you talk to. Sometimes you just need to surrender.
Huh.
And it's in that surrender that the ease will show up and the flow will show up. Because when my company was like on its downturn, I tried everything. I was like, I'm doing everything in my power, right? To adjust, to pivot. None of it worked. It was not until I finally said, you know what, God, why was I thinking I could drive the car? I don't even have a license. Let me just be the passenger princess you made me to be. And let me hand over the wheel because I done drove the car into a wall. So that really forced the lesson of ease on me because there came a point where I was like, I don't got nothing else. And it was interesting because when I finally relinquished and said, okay, you got this, is when things started going different, is when I was able to rebuild my company this last year. My company basically went on this upturn in revenue that I hadn't seen in 3 or 4 years. And I worked the least because I started bringing in people who made sense. And that prayer of let my helpers find me was game changing. We did a book academy launch in the beginning of the year. That was the biggest launch we've ever had ×3.
Wow.
And it was a launch that I did the least work for. It was the least stressful launch that we've ever had for me, because I didn't have to be the one managing nothing. I was like, y'all, make this work. And that literally was a lesson. I was like, trust me, and I will show you what I got for you. You know, so sometimes we learn that by trial by fire, but I'm hoping we ain't got to go through the fire. So if you're hearing this, don't have to go through the fire to recognize that the ease and the flow that you need is not in you working even harder. It's in you changing what you think is possible. It's in you moving in faith. It's in you trusting that who you have can hold you and letting them do the work. So it's a constant trust exercise for me. Like with my team, there'll be times when they're like, we want to send out an email. Do you want to look at it? And I'm like, yeah, I want to look at it. Meanwhile, I don't have time. I'll bottleneck the email for 4 hours. And then I finally go, you know what? I'm going to just send the email. And they're like, it went well. Awesome. So bit by bit, I am learning that I also need to invite ease by trusting. So
I knew there was a reason why I picked up my Less Hustle, More Flow mug today for my tea. Right. Yes. Switching gears for a moment, I don't want us to leave our conversation without talking about your latest book, Little Troublemaker Defends Her Name. Oh my gosh. We've been talking on the Beyonding podcast about our inner child, our inner children, you know, the inner little girls that oftentimes when we're feeling fear, it's not that we're, you know, scared, not necessarily that we're scared of the saber-toothed tiger, but that our inner little girl is afraid, and we need to nurture her and heal her. So what type of healing has this book brought to you? Because it surely healed me, brought some healing to me that I didn't even realize I needed when I was reading it to my daughter.
Listen, Little Troublemaker Defends Her Name is a book that I really wrote for little me. Like, I took it back. It's half a true story, because so in the book, it's little Luvvie's first day at school, and she gets pushed in front of the class and told to introduce herself. And in the book, a kid makes fun of her name afterwards, and she pops off on him. The teacher hears her, and she gets in trouble and has to apologize to him. And then she's really upset. At the end of the school day, her mom comes, actually at lunch, her mom comes and is like, why are you upset? She was like, this kid makes fun of my name and that's not my name. And I had to apologize to him for making fun of him. So she got an apology. And at the end of the school day, ended up becoming friends with the boy. And it was the best school day ever. And the part of that is true is that when I first came to the US, I was 9 years old. New school. First time I've ever seen a room full of people who did not all look like me as a Nigerian girl. And when my teacher pushed me into the classroom, it was like, introduce yourself to the kids. 9-year-old me knew that my name was too big for them. I knew I couldn't trust that room with my name, which is Ifeoluwa, which means God's love. And I immediately was like, 3-second calculation and conversation in my own brain where I was like, ooh, you can't use that name here. They're not going to do it right. You got to protect it. So I started going by a new name, which was Luvvie. And at that point, that's what my aunt used to call me, as like a nickname. And it was just so interesting because nobody had ever talked race with me. Nobody had ever talked safety of rooms. But I instinctually knew I couldn't trust that room with me in that way. And it was such a reclamation of self when I recognized, like, the fact that I knew that I'm not sharing my name, not because I'm ashamed. In fact, it's the opposite. I love it so much that I don't want y'all to ruin it.
Yes.
I don't want y'all to add burden where there isn't any burden. So that book for me is also a message for kids to recognize that, like, truly your name matters, whatever it is. And so many of us have spent our lifetimes having our names being mispronounced. And a lot of people just chalk it up and just goes, it is what it is. No, like, I want people to see, like, correct them every time, make sure they get it right. And Kylie, like, what's so interesting about you, one of the things that I've always noticed, you've always said my name with such confidence and clarity, whether you're introducing me on a podcast or in a room. And it stood out for me for years because most people did not. Even the people who would say it kind of still like unsure. They're like, Luvvie, and then they'll say it quietly. They'll say
It
quietly
is not
or
a hard
loud.
name.
I don't understand why they think it is. I recently won an award, and the person who was announcing the names of everybody who won the award got to my name and went, Luvvie Jones, skip the Ajayi. This was in March. Skip the Ajayi. And I'm over here. I literally was like, you decided to skip a third of my name because you thought it was too hard at your big age? It happens still. So I wrote that book because I'm like, look, I'm gonna always defend it. And now I'll do it in public. I don't care whether you're mad or not. I'm gonna do it in public. Like, hey, that wasn't my name that you just said. I'm gonna need you to say it better, say it different. And yeah, so
Do
that's
better
really
next time.
Do better
Please.
next time. It ain't even that hard. It's Ajayi. I don't know why y'all be acting like it's hard.
Yes. Well, I love that you, one of the things that I love about the complimentary part of the book is that you created keychains and you have offering. You now have an offering where people can buy a keychain with their name. And you were so generous to send me one with my name and one for my daughter. She has it on her backpack. I have mine. And I'm like, oh my gosh, because, Kylie was not a name, especially the way mine is spelled, was not something that I ever saw. I don't know. I kept looking too. Like, can I find my keychain? Can I find my mini license plate? Girl, it's not there. But I would look every time and be disappointed.
Every time we would look at Six Flags, at the souvenir shop after the whole day, everybody's all exhausted. But you're like, oh, I'm gonna go in there because I want a license plate, I want a mug, I want a keychain. Nah, never. And every time you would be so disappointed. And now that we're older, you don't know how many disappointments have we had in our lifetimes like that? How many of those micro moments have we not felt seen? So it was really important from jump. The moment I wrote the book, I was like, I'm gonna make sure that people will be able to buy keychains with their names on it. So it was super important for me to even do this because I was like, I wanted to heal that part of us who never saw it. And what I have loved the most are people sending me pictures of their keychains. Somebody recently messaged me on Threads and said, she posted on Threads and said, it was such a hard thing to keep this as a surprise from my mother for weeks because these are custom made. And she was like, and when she finally got it, her emotion was so worth it. So like adults are actually getting this more than they're getting it for their kids. Like they're like, oh no, my kids are John and Morgan because I had such trauma around my name not being able to found it. We overcorrected. So the kids got John and Mary and Joseph and Elizabeth. We're the millennials are like, I never saw my name. So yeah, y'all listen, if you've never seen your name on a keychain, you can go to getyourkeychain.com. I even made it easy to find. Getyourkeychain.com.
Simple.
Okay, and get you a keychain. We're custom making it. I've made it for like my family. I went to a conference in April, and before the conference, I looked up everybody who's going to be at the conference. And I pulled the names of the people whose names I know I've never seen on keychains. I end up taking 100 keychains to this conference, and I'll walk up to somebody, and I'd be like, "Are you Attica? I have a keychain for you." And literally, people would cry. I was like, Christiane, I was like, I got something for you. She was like, what? And I just gave her keychain. She's like, stop it. Like, like tears. You hear me?
Yes.
Reverend Cordelia Wallace, I gave her keychain, and she said, in my 7 decades in this world, I've never seen my name on a keychain. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, like So it's been the best
Huge.
part. Like, this book has been such a blessing. I guess it's probably become my favorite book that I've written, for sure.
Mm. And I
Love
remember
it.
you talking about just how you went about it differently. Like, there was so much purpose in this book, which you've shared with us. You even did tours where you went to schools and you read to the children, and you were explaining how that part of the tour, the book tour, was more rewarding than other parts in your other books that you've written. Like, you got to go sit with kids and see how they light up when they hear these stories. That felt like
Yeah.
it was different. Was that different than what you've done in the past?
For Little Troublemaker Makes a Mess, I did do school visits too, but this one thing that I incorporated that was, so I would do Q&A after I read the kids the books. I'd be
Mhm.
like, ask me whatever. But the rule that they had to have before they asked me a question is that they had to say their name loud and proud, and then they could ask me a question. And I did a school visit where this kid asked me a question, and then after I did a whole bunch of the Q&As and I finished, like, two of the teachers walked up to me and was like, I need to let you know, one of those kids that asked you that question, she doesn't talk in class. She's quiet all the time. Like, she doesn't engage in anything. Like,
Mm.
so the fact that she raised her hand, said her
Wow.
name loud and proud, asked you a question is a big deal, because typically she's so shy. And I
Oh.
was like, oh my God. They were like, we love the fact that she just did that. She never does that.
Mm.
And it was
Mm.
such a I was like, this is why. Like, this is
That's
why
it.
this exists, to let them know that, like, there's space for you. There's always space for you, and your voice matters. Use it. So it's not just about the kid being loud, it's about the quiet kid. Like, I want to hear from them. So I just
Mhm.
love the fact that the book is really hitting parents and kids in such a great way. Like, I have a video of a girl who, after her dad read her book one night, the next day she had a doctor's visit. He sends me a video of her, and she's sitting on the little thing. The nurse says her name and she corrected him. Like, so she was like, and she was so
So
proud when she
good.
did it. She was so proud. So he sent me the video. It was like, look at your girl defending
Oh,
her name
defending her name.
the day after we read the book. And I was like, I
Yeah.
know that's right. You better. So yeah, no, it's bringing me so much
Uh,
joy.
I
I
love that.
love
To feel
that.
seen at that age, The woman, the 7 decades, this woman not having seen her name on anything for that amount of time, like, wow. It's so impactful that it's starting now at a young age. Like, I can see my name and feel seen and validated at a tender young age. That's
That's right.
powerful.
That's
Beautiful.
right.
Well, I know that we are coming to the close of our time, Luvvie, and would love to close with you sharing your perspective on this, what we call beyonding. Beyonding is a verb, I guess, an adverb if we're being technical. But when you hear the word beyonding, what
Mm.
does that mean to you?
I think beyonding is deeper than surface. It is about what we don't see.
Mm.
It's about all the things that are moving what we do see that we never see. And they're just as important, if not more important, than those things that we do see. That, for me, is what beyonding is.
I
That's
mean,
it.
mic drop. Mic drop.
Yeah.
Luvvie, thank you so much for sharing your voice, your spirit, your wisdom, your joy
Mhm.
with us. You are such a gift to this world.
So
And we
true.
appreciate you.
And we cannot wait to hear about your sabbatical and your adventures and
Listen,
all the things. We wish you
listen.
well on all of that.
Y'all are the last interview that I'm doing before my sabbatical. So
Oh,
what a
we are
perfect
honored.
way. What a perfect way to be like, the last thing I thought about before I went to sabbatical. Y'all better talk to the Beyonding team. Okay, y'all go ahead and listen to them. Go listen to
Just
that
listen to
podcast
that one.
because
Let's
y'all
listen.
not gonna see me on nobody podcast or no press again for another
Ooh.
4 months.
Nice. That's
Okay.
I am honored. We are honored.
Honored.
And I did this in full joy. This was very
Yes.
much aligned with the type of space that I want to be in, the type of people I want to be in fellowship with, the type of thing I want to see on my calendar. You know, and I think it is actually a prime criteria for me moving forward because what made me say, like, they were like, oh, are you, my team, knowing that I was on this sabbatical down ramp, saw the inquiry and I was like, yo, it's yes, just go ahead and schedule it. It's because this is very much, it checks all the boxes of what joy in this work looks like. And I frankly only want to do things that feel like this. Anything like, I'd be like, get somebody else to do it. I got attitude. I don't want to do that. So thank y'all for being amazing.
Thank you.
Too.
This is Beyonding.
This is Beyonding.
Thank you, Luvvie.
Thank you.